pair of close friends hurriedly left the building they lived in to deliver their friend's forgotten doll. It is known that they are residents of an orphanage, and that night one of them was leaving the orphanage after being adopted by a generous family. Unfortunately, her beloved doll was left behind, so the two friends broke the rules and headed for the gate, hoping to return the doll. When they arrived at the gate, there was no one there, only a cart. What they found inside that cart truly shocked them. This story is set in the distant future, around the year 2045. It features a sweet girl named Emma, who has lived in the Gracefield house orphanage since birth. The place is run by a woman named Isabella, or as the children call her, Mama. Isabella is responsible for caring for children who have no parents. But for 15-year-old Emma, she also helps take care of the younger children, along with two other teenagers, Norman and Ray. The children study and play together but are forbidden from going beyond the gate. Each of them has a tattoo on their neck, likely an identification number, and it is known that the maximum age for staying at Gracefield is 16. Occasionally, children under that age are adopted by generous families. Today is the turn of a cute little girl named Connie, who is lucky enough to be adopted. All the children bid her an emotional farewell, which also makes the older kids start to feel that their own time to leave is approaching. In the midst of their conversations, Emma and Norman, full of curiosity, talk about what the outside world might be like and promise to write letters to each other if they ever leave. Soon after, as the hallway grows quiet, Emma realizes that Connie forgot to bring her beloved doll. Ray informs them that the light near the gate is still on, and if they run, Emma and Norman might still be able to catch Connie. Even though it's strictly forbidden to go out at night, especially near the gate, Emma and Norman agree to go, and Ray supports their idea. The two of them dash across the wide garden, while Ray watches anxiously from the balcony. Upon reaching the dark area near the gate, they feel scared because no one is there. Only a cart is parked nearby. They try to peek inside and are shocked by what they see, accidentally dropping the doll. Yes, what they see is Connie lying lifeless, with a strange flower stalk protruding from her body. Hearing a sound, they quickly hide under the truck, holding their breath. Suddenly, a giant claw stomps the ground right in front of them. That's when they see terrifying demon-like creatures discussing the orphanage, which is actually a farm, and praising the deliciousness of the children. After placing Connie into a tube, one of them complains about her being too young and asks when they can collect the three older children. The one who responds turns out to be Mama, and Emma is devastated to learn that all this time, Mama has been selling the children as food for demons. Suddenly, one of the demons caught a strange scent and abruptly checked under the cart. But he only found the doll because Emma and Norman had already escaped. Mama began to grow suspicious upon seeing the doll and took it back to the dormitory. The next day, Emma tried to smile despite being deeply shaken by what had happened the night before. She began to understand the reason behind all the strict rules at the orphanage, including why none of their friends ever sent letters after leaving. After that, Emma and Norman crossed the garden fence for the first time, only to be disappointed when they discovered an enormous wall towering in front of them. They started planning an escape before the demons returned, but they didn't want to leave anyone behind and were still unsure how to get all the children out. Norman decided not to tell the others until they had a clear escape plan. Suddenly, a commotion broke out in the garden. A child was crying because one of their friends had gone missing in the forest. Mama calmly took out a compass-like device and went straight into the woods, emerging shortly after with the lost child in her arms. Emma concluded that the device could track the children's locations, while Norman became convinced that trackers had been implanted in their ears. This meant Mama knew they had crossed the fence and was using the device to intimidate them. Later, Ray, growing suspicious, followed Emma and Norman into the forest. It was there that they finally told him everything. Ray agreed to join the escape, although he felt it was too risky to bring all the children, especially since they had no idea what the outside world was like, which might be filled with demons. The three of them decided to investigate first, and eventually found several books in the library that had been donated by someone named Minerva. With the help of Phil, a small but intelligent child, they discovered that the stamps in the books were written in Morse code, and each book had a different code. Ray also deduced that the demons loved their brains, which was why Mama made them study so intensely. That evening, Mama introduced a new assistant to the children, Sister Crone. When they were alone, Mama told her that 3 of the children had discovered the truth. Crone became anxious, knowing that by the rules they should hand those children over immediately. But Mama firmly forbade it and instructed Crone only to keep an eye on them until the next scheduled shipment. The next day, Emma and her friends began training the younger children for the escape plan without revealing the real purpose, disguising the training as games. Everything went smoothly until Crone appeared and insisted on joining their game of hide-and-seek. Emma, staying calm, told Norman that this was a good opportunity to observe Crone and learn more about their enemy. But what they didn't know was that Crone had her own agenda. She intended to expose the irregularities in Gracefield to the demons in hopes of replacing Mama's position. Crone played along very seriously, but she began to realize that the children were extraordinary. She even asked the head of the orphanage about it, but received no answers. A few days later, Norman started to suspect there was a spy among them and decided it was time to begin revealing the secret little by little, starting with the 2 oldest children, Don and Gilda. At first, Don didn't believe it and even punched Ray out of anger, but Gilda trusted Emma and managed to convince Don. Norman then told Emma and Ray that he had hidden 2 ropes in separate locations, with each spot known to only one of them. If either rope went missing, they would know who the traitor was. The next day, however, Norman revealed that he had actually hidden 3 ropes in different places, and the one known to Ray had disappeared. That meant Ray was the traitor. Ray couldn't deny it, but explained that he had known the orphanage's dark secret for years. He had offered to be Mama's informant in exchange for her promise to let him stay at the orphanage until the maximum age and even give him gifts from the outside world. Though disappointed, Norman revealed that the real rope was still safe. Ray explained that his friendship with them had changed his perspective, and everything he had done was part of a double-agent plan. In fact, he was the one who took Connie's bunny doll, knowing it would set everything in motion. More than that, he said he had seen the tracking device in their ears and knew how to disable it. Emma immediately forgave Ray without hesitation and even felt sympathy for what he had gone through. Norman also chose to see the bright side. Ray could help them more than anyone else. Ray then showed them some items he had collected under the floor of a room, which could be used to disable the tracking devices. He was simply waiting for the go-ahead to act the next day. Without Emma, Ray again voiced his opinion that trying to escape with all the children was madness. He suggested Norman lie to Emma, pretend to agree so she'd stay motivated until the time came. But Norman confessed that he liked Emma and couldn't bear to see her cry. Sometime later, Ray reported that Norman planned to try poisoning Mama using a mix of pesticide and detergent. Mama thanked him for the information, but also informed him that the next shipment was scheduled for January, coinciding with Ray's 16th birthday. Don and Gilda finally joined the trio, and together they continued planning their escape, until Crone approached them with a strange proposal. She revealed that she also had a number tattooed on her neck and showed a scar on her chest where the tracking device was implanted, which she claimed could kill her within seconds if she tried to leave. Having lost all hope of escaping herself, Crone's only remaining desire was to become the head of the facility, and the children's escape plan was her chance to remove Mama from power. As a sign of goodwill, she revealed Mama's real name and explained that Gracefield Orphanage was actually Unit 3. Crone then left, but invited the children to come to her room if they wanted to learn more. Emma didn't fully trust Crone, but agreed to meet with her, warning everyone to stay cautious. During their meeting, Crone admitted that she had never seen the outside world, but knew that everything was happening because of a war between humans and demons. As the war dragged on without resolution, the lands were divided. Some humans were left behind as part of a pact to raise children as livestock for demon consumption. Crone was shocked to learn that the children had already discovered the trackers in their ears. She was disappointed that they left without giving her solid evidence to use against Mama. Sometime later, a scene showed a meeting between Mama and Ray, where Ray finally received what he had asked for, a Polaroid camera. Ray reported Crone's suspicious behavior, and before he left, Mama warned him that his time at the orphanage was coming to an end. The next day, Ray gathered all the children to take a group photo and said that all preparations for their escape plan were now complete. Meanwhile, Crone was searching the dorm rooms, and Gilda saw her inspecting Phil's stuffed animal. Gilda immediately warned the others, and they hurried to hide all the incriminating evidence inside that same doll, thinking it would be safe since it had already been checked. But things didn't go as planned. Crone had anticipated this tactic and decided to search again, starting with the pig doll. Luckily, Mama suddenly appeared, and Phil took the chance to snatch his doll back. Crone was shocked when she received news that she was being transferred immediately. Before leaving, she secretly hid a pen inside one of the children's drawers. The next scene showed Crone at the gate, where she met an elderly woman referred to as Grandma. Crone tried to expose all the wrongdoings at Gracefield and the children's rebellion, hoping to bring down Isabella. But Grandma defended Isabella and handed Crone over to the demons. When the rebels finally executed their plan, Ray was in charge of distracting Mama with a ruse involving poison. But Mama wasn't fooled and quickly locked Ray in a room. As Mama rushed away with the tracker in hand, Don panicked and rushed to free Ray. He arrived just as Ray managed to break down the door. Unfortunately, by that time, Mama had already caught sight of Emma and Norman trying to climb the wall. For the first time, she spoke honestly to them, saying she truly cared for all the children at the orphanage. That was why she wanted them to live happily before they eventually died. Emma couldn't accept that reasoning and charged at her. Sadly, Mama broke Emma's leg. The other children arrived just as Mama announced that tomorrow would be Norman's farewell. Norman spent the next hours suppressing his fear and told his friends he'd rather be eaten by demons than jeopardize their escape plan. But Ray and Emma refused to let him sacrifice himself. Emma asked how Ray had learned the terrifying secret about Gracefield. Ray explained that unlike most children, he could remember his early childhood. Because of that, he still remembered being in a place called the headquarters, where he saw demons, babies, and adult humans. It turned out that the gate at Gracefield led to that place, explaining why they couldn't escape through it. After explaining everything, Ray gave Norman a device to neutralize the ear tracker so he could attempt an escape the next day. If he failed, he was to hide and wait until Emma's leg healed, so Mama would think he had already escaped. That same night, when Norman returned to his room, he opened the drawer beside his bed and found the pen Crone had left behind. The next morning, during breakfast, Mama announced that today would be Norman's departure. The younger children celebrated the news and asked Norman to send them letters later. Meanwhile, the older children tried to hold back their anger and sorrow. This was the first farewell where they knew the truth behind it. When the children were allowed to play outside, Don and Gilda escorted Norman to the fence, while Ray and Emma stayed in the garden. Norman crossed into the forbidden area, tied a rope to the top of the wall and climbed up, just as Mama was busy organizing the children's activities. Mama quickly realized Norman was missing and looked shocked as she checked his tracker. But the bigger surprise came for Emma and Ray. Norman suddenly reappeared from the direction of the forest. That night, Norman explained that beyond the wall was a deep cliff. He described what he had seen from the top and pointed out the location of a bridge they could use to cross. He returned the neutralizer device, saying he never got the chance to use it. It was then that the others realized Norman had intended to come back from the start. He had only pretended to agree with the escape plan while fully intending to sacrifice himself. Emma couldn't accept it and collapsed to her knees in front of everyone, begging Norman to try to escape instead of giving up. But Norman stood by his decision and promised he would write letters pretending everything was fine, so the younger children wouldn't suspect anything. Mama escorted him to the gate and left him alone there. Soon after, a man arrived, introducing himself as the overseer of this world. He explained that demons needed human brains to survive and thanked Norman for his sacrifice. The overseer added that one other human would be allowed to live freely because Norman agreed to take their place. Worried about his friends, Norman asked, "Isn't there even one human out there who would stand with those born only to be slaughtered?" The man replied that there used to be, but they were all gone now, and his job was to eliminate anyone who resisted the system. But the threat didn't faze Norman. Instead, he challenged the overseer's beliefs and expressed hope that there were still humans willing to help children like them escape captivity. And that hope alone was enough for Norman. The overseer reluctantly admitted that Norman was truly exceptional. He remained calm and even smiled when the demon came to collect him. Norman's departure devastated both Ray and Emma. They lost the will to continue the escape plan. Ray gave the neutralizer device to Don and Gilda, saying if they still wanted to try, they were free to do so, but he no longer had any hope left. Later, Mama visited Emma and offered her a promotion. Emma would be recommended to become a mama like Isabella, so she wouldn't be fed to the demons. That way, Emma could continue taking care of children and support them. Something Mama said was Emma's greatest talent. Emma was shocked by the offer, but she couldn't bring herself to betray her friends. She sank deeper into despair. Seeing that the rebels had lost their fighting spirit, Mama felt triumphant, once again proving that her methods always worked. Several months passed and finally it was Ray's birthday. That night, Emma secretly went to meet him. Her leg had now fully healed and they hadn't talked much lately because Mama kept a close watch on them. But that night, the two finally admitted to each other that they hadn't given up. Emma revealed that she had been delegating all the preparation tasks to Don and Gilda to avoid drawing attention to herself. Now, everything was ready. She planned to escape the next day at lunchtime, still determined to take all the children with her, just as she had intended from the start. As usual, the stubborn Ray said that the plan wouldn't work, because Mama had likely predicted it already. Then, he showed Emma his own plan, a very simple one: burn down the orphanage that very night so Mama would be too busy putting out the fire and her superiors would assume the escape was just an emergency evacuation. Ray explained everything while pouring gasoline around the room, even dousing himself, causing Emma to panic. Ray was the top student, so his brain was incredibly valuable. Mama wouldn't be able to think of anything else if she saw him burning. He lit a match before Emma could stop him. From outside, flames began to fill the dining hall. Soon after, the alarm sounded, just as expected. Mama panicked and ran toward the source of the fire, seeing via the tracker that Ray was at the center of the blaze. The other children started coming down from their rooms, frightened. Mama told Gilda to take them outside while she looked for a fire extinguisher, completely focused on saving the genius child. But the fire had grown too large, and despite her efforts, Mama couldn't put it out alone. She then thought about saving Emma, the second best student, but the girl had vanished. It was only then that Mama realized. When the children had come downstairs, they were wearing shoes, as if they knew this was going to happen. At that moment, the children were already in the forest, where Don and Gilda had hidden all the bags. Ray was with them too. It turned out the fire hadn't really started when the match fell. Emma had put it out in time and quickly called the children to help complete the plan. They created a dummy to take Ray's place. The hardest part was dealing with the trackers in their ears, but that was the key to finally fooling Mama. As the group ran toward the wall, Emma explained to Ray what had actually happened over the past 2 months. Norman had previously seen the gasoline cans and predicted that Ray would try to set the orphanage on fire to distract Mama. Because of that, Norman had left a letter for Emma with all the instructions, preparing her for when the day came. Although she had seemed hopeless, Emma had secretly been organizing the entire escape plan through Don and Gilda, gradually revealing the truth to the other children. Only the kids under 4 years old were left behind. But Emma entrusted Phil to lead them and promised to return before they reached harvesting age. The little kids had actually helped a lot. When Mama tried to chase after the rebels, they surrounded her, pretending to be scared and begging her to stay. After struggling to break free from the children, Mama finally contacted her superiors to report a rebellion and requested immediate backup. Meanwhile, the rebel group had successfully reached the top of the wall. Emma panicked briefly because the alarm at headquarters sounded earlier than expected, but she still had one final plan. Only now did Emma tell Ray that they wouldn't be crossing the bridge as their enemies assumed. In his letter, Norman had pointed out the narrowest part of the cliff, and that's where Don threw a rope to the opposite side, allowing them to slide across. Emma was the last to cross, and Ray became anxious when he saw that Mama was already at the top of the wall, running toward Emma. When they finally confronted each other, Mama admitted that she had once stood in that same place and had wanted to escape when she was Emma's age. But the sight of the ravine and the dense forest made her give up. Emma replied that she wasn't going alone, and even if the world had no place for people like them, they would create that place from scratch. Angry, Mama threatened to cut the rope before Emma reached the other side, but in the end, she couldn't bring herself to do it. Emma's words reminded Isabella of her youth, and at that moment, we learned the truth. Ray is actually Isabella's biological son. Feeling regret over everything she had done, Isabella returned to the orphanage and apologized to the remaining children for having left them behind. Deep in the forest, Emma retrieved the pen that Norman had left with his letter. When she twisted both ends of the pen, a hidden device was revealed inside. The device projected Minerva's symbol and displayed a flying owl, which seemed to be a guide toward a safe place. The next day, Isabella was punished for her failure that allowed Emma's group to escape. Not long after, a terrifying creature, the Executor, arrived to enforce the consequences. Meanwhile, Emma's group had climbed a hill. From its peak, they gazed out at the vast world waiting to be explored. Where will Emma's group go? Will they return to rescue Phil and the others? And that's it for the story series of this film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. Goodbye.